Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to Rules of Engagement. I'm your host, Nick Axslav Ranish. Let me tell you a little bit about the show we have here today. Rules of Engagement is a tactical analysis show brought to you by MLG Monday through Friday, every day at 7 p.m. Eastern, and each day of the week has a unique theme to it. Let's take a look at a couple of those themes right now. Every Monday, we have Talking Tactics. That's where I took a look at professional level games and analyze the tactics they use and say how you can use those tactics back in your game to improve your play. Every Tuesday, we have Developing Fundamentals. That's where we take a look at some of the fundamentals of the game, the basics of economy, the basics of army management, and of course, some tips and tricks to help you guys get started and climb up to the next level in your ladder. Every Wednesday is Mechanics of the Bazaar. That's where I take a look at pro games, but this time pro games where they do things that are a little bit offbeat, a little bit strange strategies, even bizarre ones, and I analyze why those strategies worked or didn't work in that specific case, and why maybe we don't see it being used all the time. Every Thursday we have Community Critique. Thursdays are where I take a look at your replays that you guys back at home send me, and I analyze those. If you want your replays to be analyzed every Thursday, go to majorleaguegaming.com/replays and submit the form. It's pretty painless, and you can have your replays looked over on live on the show. Every Friday is a day of self-reflection. That's where I take a look at my own replays, analyze them, say what I did well, what I did poorly, and of course, the type of things that can improve my play a lot, that may be actually pretty simple things, easy to execute, that you guys can go back home and try out yourself to improve your play. Of course, all these shows are at 7 p.m. Eastern. Every single show I do a question and answer period at the end of the show, so if you have any questions, tweet at me at axslav, and we'll cover those at the end of the show. And also, of course, all these shows are available in VOD format at our YouTube page, youtube.com/official MLG SC2. If you want to catch up on old shows, you can go there, or if you even just want to maybe go to sleep to them, maybe eat dinner with them, I'm sure you can learn Starcraft just by osmosis, similar to how babies learn Mozart or something like that. Just put them on in the background all the time, and they'll do you good. So let's get on to today's episode. Today is going to be Talking Tactics. It's going to be, we have 3 replays, one of every single race, so no matter what race you play, you have something to learn. And don't forget, the tactics used, for example, in a Tyranny vs. Zerg, can often apply to Protoss play as well, so it's very, very useful no matter what race you play. We're going to start off with pushing across the map with Terran in Flash vs. DRG, then talk about flexible timings with Protoss in Hero vs. Scarlet, and then how to take the easy way out sometimes, looking at a Zerg perspective in Roro vs. Krank, and of course, finishing off the show with a question and answer period. Send in your questions there and we will cover them. So let's start off jumping into the replay of Terran. This is going to be Flash vs. DRG. And the first thing I'm going to talk about here is going to be his base setup. And then we're going to talk about when he leapfrogs across the map, when to use the leapfrog technique, what the leapfrog technique actually is, and when not to use the leapfrog technique. And of course, the last thing I'm going to talk about is the movement pass that Flash uses to cross the map. Basically, how to control your army when crossing the map to be both safe from attack as you cross the map, and also to cross the map in the most efficient way possible, put the most pressure on your opponent, and get to your destination goal as fast as possible. Cover all 3 of those at once. So let's get into the game and talk about his initial base setup. So the one thing that's very important, no matter what race you play, is to have yourself protected from counterattacks. And with Terran, they have a big advantage in that they can use building walls to do this. So Flash protects himself from counterattacks with supply depots, bunkers, and a sensor tower. In fact, we can see here, there's a supply depot here, a sensor tower here, excuse me. And if we look at the range of this, it covers both his ramps and his back hallway, and he can see units coming in from a significant perspective. In fact, any Zerg units that come and try to walk along this hallway here will be spotted by the sensor tower. This is a very important hallway to know which direction the Zerg is going. If maybe they feint up one ramp and try to circle around, come to the other ramp, this sensor tower will see them doing exactly that. It's a very important part of the defense. Then we have, of course, depot walls. These will waste baneling shots and force Zerglings to have to kill the depots before they can connect. A very important part of defense to stop speeding run-bys. A bunker behind it, so even if banelings blow up the depots, you still have that bunker as a second layer of defense, and of course, another depot wall here to natural, another depot wall in front of this bunker here, another bunker over there, and then another depot wall right here guarding the main. All these depot walls are basically free to make. Flash needs his supply depots anyway, but if you notice, there's no depots in his main except for the ones he's just constructing right now. Because every single depot he makes, he's like, you know what? Why not put it at a spot that makes my defense stronger if I have to build the building anyway? So let's take a look at the map of Cloud Kingdom, actually, and talk about the exact important parts of your base to defend. So Flash knows that there's a couple routes Zergs can do to counterattack. And this whole thing is going to be about how Flash progresses across the map. And the most important to progressing across the map is to make sure you're safe at home as you do so. So of course, we saw he walled off this place with a depot wall. He walled off this area over here with a depot wall. And then last, he walled off this bunker here with a depot wall. Then he walled off his main with depot wall too. So 4 different layers of walls with a couple bunkers behind him. So he had a bunker over here. He had a bunker over here. And then he even had that sensor tower right around here. So his defense is extremely solid. The only place a Zerg can come through, if you notice, is right here up this ramp here. But then all of a sudden the Zerg's trapped because there's a depot wall on one side, a depot wall on the other side, 2 bunkers on each side, and Flash's army can come in from behind for a full trap. They used to do this in medieval warfare sometimes too, create these killing grounds inside a fortification where you try to basically make the opponent think there's a weak spot, and then when they come in there, you surround them from all sides and slaughter them. Let's get back in the game. We talked about how important the base setup is to making sure he's safe from counterattacks. So now let's talk about how he leapfrogs across the map and when it's important to do that. So leapfrogging is something you'll hear a lot of people talk about with Terran play, especially with siege tanks. It's used in other matchups too, but most commonly with siege tanks and Terran play. And the idea is this army right here, right? This army, Baden's can just roll into it and kill it all. And there's not much you can do about it without, crazy micro. But if the tanks are in siege mode, all of a sudden the Baden's can't get close because the tanks blow them up. But if the tanks are in siege mode, they can't move across the map. So now I have this conundrum. Well, if I'm in a moving pattern, all of a sudden I can die. And if I siege up, then I can't move across the map. So how do I ever move across the map without risking death? That's where leapfrogging comes into play. So if you think your opponent might be close to you, then you siege up your tanks, or siege up at least a couple of them, so that if they come in, all of a sudden they're going to get blown up. And the important part here is to know when and when not to leapfrog. And this is why this sensor tower is so important when he's just trying to get out of his base initially. It's very, very important to have that map awareness so you know when your opponent's close to you. He saw the blips on a sensor tower, so he said, you know what, I'm going to siege up. And now if the blips stay close, he could do the leapfrog technique, which is where instead of unsieging all of them, he just unsieged 2 tanks, push them forward, siege them up, keep repeating this process until his tanks cross the... basically, you always have 1 or 2 siege tanks in siege mode at any given point in time. So now the important thing here, though, is that using a sensor tower, he knew he was safe until he got to this point. And so, if you see where the Banings are, his tanks are already sieged up before they're even close to the bulk of his army. Unfortunately, nice surrounder by DRG, gets a few units, but still, overall, a pretty decent trade in Flash. I mean, not terrible, not great, but pretty much even. So right here, what he's doing is he's using these siege tanks to protect the Marines as they clear creep. Because he's in a danger zone right now, he's not going to unsiege those tanks. He knows there's plenty of Banings left over. He sieges them up, and the Marines are out of range, but if they see units come in, they could quickly run back into the siege tank range, and that'll protect his Marines. So he's using them to protect the Marines, even though they're not currently in range, just by the fact that knowing the Marines can always retreat if they need to. So use the siege up tanks to protect the Marines as they spread creep, and as the creep proceeds, you can slowly push forward with the tanks. The most important thing to do is to have great map awareness so you know when you need to progress slowly and when you can lightning quick run across the map. So right here is the case, DRG is launching a counterattack, and I talked about how important the base setup was to defend against the counterattack. He had to use up 5 Banings just to blow up this depot wall, poke a hole in it, and now even once he's through, there's a missile turret and a bunker there, in fact another missile turret, to all buy more time on his defense to get more units there. So he's going to be fine no matter what. The important thing to talk about now is his movement pass, right? So as we're here right now, his ride defense can push his Zerg army back. He doesn't need more defense here. But the important thing to talk about is where he's going with his army, right? So if we jump into the Cloud Kingdom map again really quickly, we can talk about exactly the movement path he's doing. So Right now, Flash's army is right here, right? He's occupying this space right there. He has two things he wants to do. One is he wants to cut the Zerg army off and try to make sure that he can kill as much of it as possible, or at least isolate it in a corner of the map. The second thing he wants to do is he wants to start moving across the map and putting pressure on the Zerg before the Zerg gets too much economy. So he wants to attack the Zerg's 4th base. So, does he go back this way to go and push the Zerg back? No, he doesn't, because that only achieves one objective, right? Does he go straight across this way to go attack the Zerg base in the most direct path, or even maybe this way, right? Both these are the most direct paths. No, he doesn't, because that would, again, only achieve one objective. So instead of doing both of those things, what he's going to do is he's going to sneak over and go straight over this way, right? And that's not directly towards either objective, but what's important is that he can, one, both push the Zerg player away from his base, and then two, he can go and attack the Zerg expansion both at the same time. It's a very effective way to use the movement path to achieve two objectives with a single movement. So as we get back in the game, we'll see that's exactly what he's going to do. His army's going to head up diagonally across this path to push the Zerg back in the corner of the map where their army's not much of a danger, and then now he can rush towards the Zerg's 4th base. And what's important here is that when Flash thinks the Zerg is busy mustering up an army, he can cross the map very aggressively. So you notice he does not need to leapfrog here, and the reason he's not leapfrogging is because he knows this army is pushed to the top left. Now it's coming back for a counter, but his rally can totally defend against that. And he figures he's safe to push across the fast map. Unfortunately, he slightly underestimates DRG's ability to macro, as DRG's got this immense new baiting army up here. And so he gets caught a little bit off guard there. The tanks are a little bit late in sieging. And this is a situation where he probably should have done the leapfrog technique, but he figured he was safe because the army wasn't near. So his map awareness was slightly off here. As it is, I mean, he still has good enough micro. He actually trades okay in this engagement. Look at units lost. The Zerg players lost slightly more than him. Some of that was on the attempt at busting the 3rd, which didn't work out so well. So overall, that battle wasn't terrible for him, but it could have gone better if he leapfrogged there. Unfortunately, he thought he was safe because he thought the opponent's army wasn't close, which is what you want to do. You don't want to stall too much time. If they're not close, you want to move aggressively across the map, which is what he did. He just made a slight underestimation of DRG's ability to macro up an enormous army. So as we proceed with this game, we're going to see another thing about movement pass. One thing we're going to see him do is that DRG comes in for a little bit of a counterattack into this like death trap area I talked about. Flash raises the depots here, and now DRG's army is going to be cut between two different walls that are expensive to break through, and of course an army coming in behind it, and then more rally units coming in from the front. And so DRG realizes this and says, uh-oh, I have to get out of here. And so he gets out just in time. But a lesser Zerg player could have been easily caught by this trap and lost their entire army. So this is the whole idea of this base defense setup, is to get that setup very well set up there. The next thing we're going to talk about what Flash does is he moves around to push his army back, and he's going to reunite his forces a bit. And look what he does here. He chases DRG's army back, and he moves his whole army to the left as he does so, right? But look at this. As soon as DRG's army runs away, if we look at DRG's point of view, DRG doesn't know where Flash's army is, right? He knows Flash's army was going this way. And so he assumes, okay, he's going to come down and attack this base, right? But as soon as he gets out of the vision range of DRG, his whole army books it to the right side of the map, and then he's going to progressively move over here and get in great position. And look where DRG's forces are. He's got a force set up here. He's got a force set up here. He was ready to perhaps move this force to the left, move this force up forward, and create a good little sandwich effect if Flash pushed this way. But now all of a sudden, Flash is in a situation where, because of his map awareness, he knows where DRG is, and so he can cross the map aggressively to get in a good position without having to leapfrog too much. And this time, the secret is he knows exactly when he needs to siege up his tanks, so he gets them there in siege mode before the Zerg can get across the map to face him. So the siege tanks are all sieged up here before DRG is ready to mount a defense. So let's take a look again at that movement pass and talk about the key thing there. Oops. There we go. So the important thing is that the way Flash moved is that he first crossed the map. Oh, we can erase this. So his army is basically, he's got some of it right here, and he's got some more right here. And what he first did is he first moved his army up here, and that looks like he's going to come down along the left side and attack his opponent's fourth base. But then what he does, as soon as he pushes DRGs back, gets him out of vision, he immediately sends this guy around here. Or actually, sorry, I made a little mistake there. He immediately turns this guy around and heads him here, and then this guy just basically hooks around here, and he meets up and gets his army grouped up, and he gets a great little siege position there with a couple tanks here and then a bunch of guys all here. So he has a nice little army set up to attack what's now the Zerg's fifth base, and is in a perfect setup position because he did a little feint move on the movement path. So at this point, DRG is pretty much feels like he has to abandon this base because you don't want to fight a Terran who's in a siege up position, especially not one with as big an army as Flash has, and especially not when he's still trying to more bandits. So he launches his counterattack. And here's what's also really important about the movement pass and understanding exactly what's happening. So right now, Flash is going to defend this attack with his rallied army, right? He can't turn around because by the time his main army got back to here, damage should be done. But he's confident that with his rallied troops, he's got 2 siege tanks, right? One here, one here. And once they come out, as long as he raises these walls, he should be in okay shape. You can see he's already reset all these rally points to his main. So he's going to plan on defending his main with his rally points. And he gets these tanks sieged up and watches instantly siege these tanks up in great positions where he can easily hold this ramp without too much of a problem. So while he's doing this, he's holding DRG's army with his rallied units. And then look at how he's going to attack with this army. But what's important is his army was down here, right? In fact, let's again just jump into this map, talk about exactly where his army was. So, here we go, erase this part. So his army was right here, right? This is where Flash's army was. It was right here, killing this hatchery. The fastest path to his opponent's next base he wants to kill, which is this is the point. The third's getting little minerals. He wants to kill this fourth base. He could easily just cross this map right here, right? Boom. Get there real quick. But you know what would happen? He held DRG's army with his rally. He knows DRG has rally units. This is all creep. You don't want to cross creep right in front of Banelings. Banelings will come here and just kill his army as it tries to cross through there. That would be no good. So instead what he does, he takes a high ground ridge. And then he gets up here. And what this means is that there's only one way the Banelings can intercept him en route, and that's coming up this tiny little ramp here. And if the Banelings try to shove their way up a tiny ramp, the Marines can gun them down as they come up, and Flash will be very, very cost efficient. So we jump back into replay here. We can see exactly what Flash did. He takes his high ground ridge, as I mentioned. If DRG wants to send Banelings up this tiny little ramp, I mean, feel free. The Marines will kill him almost as fast as they can even get up there because it's not nearly enough surface area. And so what this does is it protects Flash army from where are the Banelings? They're somewhere around here. Well, wherever they are, it protects him from the Banelings while he gets in position. And all of a sudden, he can get a great siege up position from here. Then once he's sieged up here, of course, meanwhile, he's reestablished his natural. Lost a few SCVs, but he still has plenty. And he's in a position where DRG can't really effectively engage this because he's got these tanks on the high ground. He's got Thors on the bottom. DRG is shortly forced to GG out of this game. Even with the Brooders on the way, without the economy to match Flash, it's pretty much game over. And it's all from just knowing how to cross the map effectively. So to recap on a couple of things that are important if you're with any race and you want to cross the map, number one most important thing is make sure your base is set up so it's very cost inefficient for your opponent to launch counterattacks. Then the second most important thing is leapfrogging. I talked about how this could apply with Terran. It could also apply with Zerg, going from base to base with spine cores, or making sure you just leapfrog from position to position, where each position is a spot where if your opponent engages you, you either get a good surround if you're low-tech Zerg, or you can fungal them on a choke if you're high-tech Zerg with infestors. Again, if you're Protoss, you can do the same perspective. You're doing a 2-base immortal push. You want to cross the map. You leapfrog from position to position. Make sure that each position, you're either crossing the map swiftly when your opponent's not close, or you're crossing the map through a position in which you can use very effective force fields. Not much surface area around you. That's the idea of leapfrogging. Then there's movement pass, all right? Make sure that when you move, you can both defend and attack at the same time, or you can move in a way in which you can't be ambushed en route and you can get set up in a great position once you get there. So keep those 3 things in mind when you're trying to push across the map for a timed attack. Thank you guys for watching this segment. We'll take a quick break and be right back for the next section.